Flexing that whip with a diamond on her wrist. I got a chick, nobody can hit. I put her in, the diamond on her ring, yeah. She all about me. In them tight shorts, you can even see the cheese. Bad bees run her up down through the streets. I ain't even lying, she better than me. She better than me.
Hi everyone, my name is Shay. I have a YouTube page and an Instagram page called Shayventures. So on my Instagram page, I talk about all my traveling with some tips and tricks. And then on my YouTube page, I talk about my travels and also my adventures with nursing.
And my name is Jose from Jet Set Jose on Instagram and on YouTube. I focus on traveling to areas that most people don't really explore, you know. And so today we're going to bring you guys a video regarding our ancestral lineage.
And we'll be using 23&Me. So I'm just doing the ancestry part. He is doing ancestry plus health.
So, Shay, when people first look at you, what do they think about you? Like, where do they think your background is from?
So, a couple of people have said, like some of my patients have said I look like I'm from Ghana. I've had one person ask about Trinidadian, but my great-grandmother was actually born there, so I was like, that's not too far off. I've had Honduran, Dominican, and I would say pretty much those countries I get the most, actually.
That's what you get the most?
Those are the most I get.
Honestly, I met Shay maybe, what was it, like 8 years ago or so? I think that was the first time I ever seen her. And no lie, you're gonna kill me for this, y'all. I would have thought you were Guyanese. No lie.
I don't think I've ever gotten Guyanese before.
Nah, that's, you know,
I don't think I've ever got Guyanese.
I think it's like the strong like Indian background, you know, and they got like a lot of like Afro background over there. Like that's what I see in you is Afro and Indian from like the subcontinent.
I think like as I've gotten older, more people have said I look like I have some Indian in me, or like they'll think I'm black and Indian, or they've said like you look some type of Native American. Like as I've gotten older, I never really got that when I was young.
Yeah,
like high
American?
school. I've got Native American.
Like Native from like United States, Native American.
When I got my
Really?
first job at my college, I did work study, and one of the ladies there, she was like an older Italian lady. She was, because I had my hair straightened, and then she was like, "You look like you have some Indian or like Native American in you." And I was like, "Well, my family definitely not from the States, so I doubt that."
Hey, I mean that's why we doing this test for, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe you do have some of that, you know. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. Everyone be guessing. I'll be like, I never got Guyanese before.
Yeah, no, I would have said Guyanese. I mean, as for me, I mean the most common thing that I get, you know, is I'm black and I'm white, like white American and black American mixed together. It's probably because of my voice, the way I sound when I talk English. It sounds kind of rough, maybe. That's maybe why they think I'm black and white. And then the two other things that I hear a lot is that I'm straight up Puerto Rican or that I'm straight up Dominican.
I can see it.
You see that?
I see it.
Alright. Is that what you would have thought first time you met me?
I think the first time I saw you, I knew you were Hispanic. I wouldn't say I knew exactly which countries.
Right.
Like which country I would actually pick, like, oh, Dominican, Puerto Rican. But I could definitely tell off the bat that you were Hispanic. So I'm like, you're going to be mixed with like Native, white, and black. Like I can see all three in you, but I couldn't definitely say a country. If that makes sense.
So some type of like Latin.
Yeah, off the bat. Not like Central American or South, but like either Cuba, DR, or PR. Like off the bat, one of those three.
Cuban.
I can see that. Yeah.
Alright, cool.
Oh.
What are you in reality? Like, I don't like the phrase like what are you, but what ethnicities are your parents? Like, where are they from?
So I was born here in America. Both of my parents are from the islands. So I would say that I would be like Afro-Caribbean American or Caribbean American. Like I take so much pride in my parents' countries. So my dad, big up yourself, Antigua. My dad is from Antigua, 100%. Been there for generations because I've asked my grandmother. She's like, we've been there forever. So Antigua. And then Montserrat is a big flag, but you know, little island, little people, we have big pride. So yeah, they're still owned from the British. They're not independent yet. And then we have this on it. So this is the whole flag. Back up. So basically,
Just covering me up now.
Exactly. Irrelevant. Like, you know, just irrelevant. Just all Montserrat right here. So basically, this is owned by England. Antigua has their independence, and this is on it because back in, I would say, 16 or 1700s, they had a lot of Irish immigrants come over, and they basically settled there. They were like the majority of like 80 or 90% of the population back then. And then I guess when the African slaves came over, then we became the majority. So that's why a lot of people from Montserrat, they have like Irish last names, or they probably look like my grandfather. Like, he kind of looks like he may have some Irish or British in him. So that's like a little background. They're the British West Indies.
All right.
And where are your people from?
My people, yo. Yo, you say boricua para que tú lo sepas.
Not enough colors.
What do you mean not enough colors? That's plenty. That's what you need. Red, white, and blue. Anyways. Yeah, so as far as I know, for many generations, my entire like lineage is straight out of Puerto Rico. And this is going back 5 to 6 generations. Because I talked to my mom about it like maybe 10 years ago. I even have it written down in a notepad and everything. So this is going back 5, like say each generation is like 20 years. So we're talking about 100, 120 years, and everyone has been born straight up in Puerto Rico. So 100% Puerto Rican, right? But anyways, Puerto Ricans, right? Where is Puerto Rico? Puerto Rico is in the Caribbean, in the West Indies. It's part of the Greater Antilles. So it's part of like the larger islands in the entire Caribbean chain. And it's a Spanish-speaking Caribbean island. It's not independent right now. It's considered like a territory of the United States, but everyone right there is considered a U.S. citizen. And now Puerto Ricans as a whole, I'm not saying this applies to everyone, but the majority of the population there is a mixture of 3 different races as defined in the United States. So the first one that most people identify with is the European part, which is Spain. Spain were the colonizers of Puerto Rico. The second major group is African, and as we all know, throughout the entire Caribbean, most of the slaves that were brought over to the Caribbean were all from West Africa. That's a fact. We can't deny that. And then third, right, is the race of the Tainos. The Tainos were the Native Americans of Puerto Rico, and that's why we're called Boricua, because the Taino actually named the island Borique. So it's a mixture of those 3 races right there. So Puerto Rican, Boricua, 100%.
So I think that in his DNA, the European percentage is 35%. As he said, his colonizers were Spain, so I'm gonna say 35% Spanish from Spain.
Just straight up Spain. That's it. That's the only European I got in me.
Maybe Portuguese.
Maybe Portuguese.
Maybe Portuguese. They're right there.
You don't think no French? You don't think no English? You don't think no Scandinavian? Italian?
Okay, we'll put French. I'll say in those areas.
Right.
Spain, Portugal, and France. Those will make your European. I don't really say
Spain, Portugal, and France.
I'll say those.
Okay.
Then I would say 35% of native Taino, so the Native Americans that are for the Americans.
But what if I'm mixed with like other types of natives? What if it's Carib? What if it's
Still native. Of the Americas. You know what I mean?
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Okay, so then we have 25% Sub-Saharan African. So of course a lot of Africans came from West Africa and the sub-area to the Americas. So that's why I say 25%. Like, he's a little bit tanner in person than right now, but he got some color. Some melanin is in there.
I blend with the wall right behind me. I really do.
There's some melanin in there. And then I'll give 5% North African.
Okay. Why? Why are you throwing North African in there?
Yeah, because, you know, Portugal right there, North Africa. I was thinking,
yeah,
a little.
All right. I get it.
A little spice and dash or something.
Wow. Okay, that's where all my Latin flavor comes from. Alright. So I mean, personally, for the most part, I do agree with the percentages that you are assigning me. There are some minor variances. Just thinking about it myself, like what I look like, you know, and just some stories I've heard about like my whole lineage. These are the numbers that I think properly attribute to me. So European wise, I think I'm about like 30% European. For Native American, that's probably like another 35% right there. So we're up to about 65%. So I think I'm mostly like Native. Then when it comes to North African, I'd say about like a 10%, right? Because if you really think about it, the reason why I'm giving myself 10% with North Africa is because Spain, many centuries ago, was actually conquered by like the Moors, by like the Muslims of North Africa. You know, that's why in Spanish we have like words like azúcar, comes from like the word for sugar in Arabic, and also the word ojalá in Spanish is actually Arabic in origin, which is like hopefully. It's like, oh God, oh Allah, you know. And then in terms of like African, to be more precise, sub-Saharan Africa, I would say I'm about 25% of that. And then I would say I have no type of like Central or Southern Asian, and 0% from like the Pacific Islands. So that's my predictions right there for myself.
Pretty similar.
Pretty similar, I agree. And then when I take a look at Shay, you know, I think about it, right? I already know her mom's from Montserrat, her dad's from Antigua.
Let them give a profile.
Like, she really gives me a lot of like Indian vibes right there. I'm not gonna lie, but that's just the type of vibe I get. But this is my breakdown for her. Alright. So European wise, I think she about 10% European. That's got to be some type of like Irish, Scottish, maybe some British up in there, possibly, because Montserrat was colonized by like the Irish and the English. Same thing with Antigua. Antigua is actually an English speaking island, so most likely that's what it is. When it comes to Native American blood, I don't think she really has much Carib in there. What do you mean, I'm just saying, this is not the type of vibe I get off of you. You know, I don't think you got like any type of Carib. I don't think you have any type of like Native Caribbean in you. But that's just the vibe I get.
Big Caribbean.
Yeah, exactly. When it comes to Western Asia and North Africa, I don't think she has any of that either. I don't think, you know, a whole Middle Eastern profile with her. I don't think she really gives that off. However, this is going to be like the biggest percentages that I assign to Shay, and that's going to be Sub-Saharan Africa. So like countries like Ghana, Nigeria, I think that's going to be the biggest portion for her. I'm going to assign like 75% of that to Shay. When it comes to Central and Southern Asia, so this is like the Indian subcontinent, I'm giving her a full 15% right there. Just to me, like, she gives me kind of like Indian features. And then when it comes to like Pacific Islander, I don't think she has any, so I'll give her 0% right there.
I don't think so either.
Alright, so how does that compare to what you think for
We
yourself?
have a couple of differences.
Okay.
European, I would definitely say 7%. I've heard we may have some Scottish, Irish, and Portuguese somewhere in the family. Not too sure, so I give it 7%. Then I actually put 3% Native, just because I heard someone down the line was from Panama. I don't know exactly what she looked like, but I heard someone was from Panama, so I was like, maybe. African, I'm gonna put 80%, clearly. I'm thinking majority from Ghana and maybe Congo, maybe, I don't know, Nigeria, a lot of them, you know, somewhere over there. I'm not too sure, but I'm definitely gonna give 80% to that, and I think the highest will be Ghana. Central and South Asian, I'm good. I give it 10%. You give 15. Honestly, I never really looked at myself and saw Asian features. Well, Indian features, I should say. But other people see it in me, which I'm like, really? So I put it as 10%.
That's it. That's all you get for yourself. Alright.
Yeah, my big
So I want you guys over there who are watching this video, just pause it for a second, right? And just tell us what percentages do you think Shay has in her? Like what kind of mixes you think she has? And let me know in the comments, like, what do you think I have as well? You know, just drop them right down there, in this section. Okay, so we're back. It's been 2.5 weeks since we sent off our saliva. Ew. But yeah, we got our results back, you know. The results for me, not shocking, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Were you shocked?
Not shocked, just a little confused with certain countries. But other than that, it's kind of what I expected.
That's what you expected. Alright, so drum roll. Alright, let us know what you got.
So for me, I am 91.2% sub-Saharan African. So I said 80, so this is more, but let's be real, I'm not really surprised to be in that range either. So Ghanaian, Liberia, Sierra Leone were the highest, 41.3%. I said Ghana would be my highest, and I guess the two nearby countries were included in it, so I'm not surprised. Nigeria, 35.3%. Senegambia and Guinea, 4.1%. Broadly West African, 4.5%. Congolese and Southern East Africa, 6%. That one I didn't think too much of, Angola and the Congo. Like, I did say Congo, but I don't see that much people having Congo in them, so I didn't think it would be that high. Maybe like 1% or something. So Southern European was 4.2%. Northwestern European, 3.8%. What surprised me was French and German, 4.1%. I don't know anyone that I've heard no one being French or German.
4.1 or 1.4?
1.4. Oh, I said my bad.
Yeah.
1.4%. I don't know anybody being any of that. So that one was surprising. No British or Irish. I was just like, what?
That's in your bloodline that you're aware of.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how I was surprised. The Spanish and Portuguese I know from my father's side. My great-grandfather was Portuguese. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And broadly European, 0.5%, making my European 8.5%. There's no Asian, so everyone was like, you're mixed with some type of Asian, including this one, talking about being Indian.
I thought I saw some Indian in her.
Yeah.
I guess not.
I guess even my dad thought one of his grandparents was Indian. So she was clearly something else. I don't know what it was, but she was something else. And let's see. It's probably maybe the Southern East African, maybe. That could be it. I don't know.
Could be. Yeah.
And it traced me back to St. John, Antigua, which is correct. So they got my father's side correct with the DNA. Yours?
Okay. So for me, my test results, right? I'm 100% Puerto Rican.
No.
What can I say? I'm kind of like your typical Puerto Rican in terms of like the whole hodgepodge or what makes our identity, you know, in the Caribbean. So broadly speaking, majority of my ancestral DNA, continental wise, I'm over half European, which is crazy to me because I honestly thought my European percentage might be about like 1/3, maybe something less. I didn't expect it to be this high, you know. And now to be more specific about my European DNA, most of it is Southern European, came out to 54.7%, more than half. And of that, 52.4% is actually from Spain, and it even pinpointed the areas of Spain that my family must have came from.
Which is cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So my two main regions of Spain were actually the Canary Islands, which are some small islands off the coast of Western Africa, and also Andalusia. And Andalusia has like some major cities that were pretty much like Moorish. What that means is there were Islamic invaders that took over Spain many hundreds of years ago, and so cities like Sevilla, that's what's included. So from Spain, I'm like southern Spain, so very Mediterranean climate, very warm weather. So that's the majority of my European. Apart from that, I was surprised. I actually saw 0.9% Italian. It's not a big percentage, so it must have been many generations ago. DNA lost somewhere up in the shuffle, but I got Italian as well. And then the other thing that came out pretty high, well, not pretty high, the other thing that showed up was 0.9% Ashkenazi Jewish.
Almost
So
1%.
almost 1%. Yeah, which is like, whoa, I would have never expected that, you know? Yeah. And then the other thing that shocked me about my European is that I had 0.8% being either British or Irish. And come on, like Puerto Rico, we speak Spanish, you know? I know there have been like English invasions of Puerto Rico in the past, but I honestly think it comes from my paternal haplogroup. But that's a story for a whole nother time. Basically, a haplogroup is if you like the paternal one is if you trace your fathers, keep going forever, going back across all the fathers. My haplogroup is like from Western Europe. And the other big continental group that for myself is actually African. And that comes as no surprise to me. I honestly thought my black percentage would be higher, but it's still a significant portion of who I am. And that came out to 28.6%. Of that, 23.9% is from West Africa. And it turns out Ghana, Liberia, and Sierra Leone, that whole region right there makes up 8.1% of who I am. And the Senegambian and Ghanaian, that came out to 6.4%. Nigerian was 5.1%. I thought my Nigerian might have been higher, but that wasn't the case for me. And the rest is 4.3% broadly West African. So any of those countries along West Africa makes up that remaining 4.3%. And then Congolese and Southern East African, so countries like Angola and the Congo, makes up 4.1% of the remainder of my African ancestry. And then the other third component as to who I am is my Native American, that's the Taino. And of that, that's 13.6% of my DNA. I thought my Taino might have been a little bit higher, but 13.6%. So, and then I had just a smidge of North African, which makes sense because southern Spain was under Islamic rule, and that's like countries like Morocco, the whole Islamic empire, that was all part of that. So that's probably where some of that DNA comes from. So hey, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, might all be in my bloodline.
Yeah, I think I was kind of close. I said sub-Saharan for you was 25%.
No, not even. Oh yeah. You were actually pretty close. 25%, yeah.
And North I put 5%. Oh.
Yeah, okay.
Well, that's something.
And then when it comes to like my Caribbean ancestry, 23&Me was like spot on. I said high probability of being Puerto Rican. There's no denying it. Come on, I'm 100%, like, you know. And then it says that I might have had some distant ancestors who broke off on the line and settled in the Dominican Republic, in particular the Cibao region. And apart from that, it says there's a possibility I have some distant relatives out in Cuba, and in particular that's Havana. So I always wanted to go to Cuba. I would love to explore Havana. Might be coming up soon, 2021.
How accurate do you think it was? Like how correct?
So the test, I
Yeah.
mean, it's pretty much what I was suspecting. I mean, the percentages were off that I thought I was, you know. But it's basically saying what I thought it was, you know. It came out, I'm basically Puerto Rican, you know. I'm prideful of that. I've always been. And so, you know, I agree with the results. It was accurate.
And then how do you feel about knowing the countries or regions now?
Well, like in terms of like countries?
Yeah, like all of them.
Okay. Nah, for me, like, I guess what this means is like, I'm big into like traveling. It's gonna add like another layer of like significance when I actually travel to a place. You know, I always wanted to go to Spain. Now I would know, I would actually want to like go to like the Canary Islands. Like I have another purpose of actually being there, you know, and I'll be able to connect with the people, you know, and I'm like, hey, you know, I have, I guess, long relatives, ancestors that were actually from here. This is probably where they lived, and I get to see, you know, like the people who remain there. This is how they continue to live. Is it like similar to the way I go about things, you know, like what kind of influence does this have on like the culture that I grew up in? So I guess that's like the implications of it. But in terms of like what I would like to do moving forward, I would like to dig in deeper into like the whole African ancestry. I know there's a DNA testing kit that specifically tests like for tribes in Africa, and you know, it would be nice when I go to Africa in the future, you know, in specific to specific countries, get to meet some of the people where maybe I have DNA relatives that are from that area. It just adds like a whole nother level of significance, at least for me. That's what that means. Okay.
Good answer.
That's how I feel. But for yourself, like, what does this mean for you?
Well, for me, as being a Afro-Caribbean woman, I always knew my ancestors came from Africa. It's just good to know what countries, like, I definitely know now. Because I always thought Ghana, but now it's like, I have proof, like, Ghana is within me. Liberia and Sierra Leone, I never thought of that, honestly.
Now, just because it says Ghana, Sierra Leone, Liberia,
like the regions,
it's the region.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. That's probably one of my criticisms.
Still, I'm just saying, like, I would still like to visit all those countries. You know what
absolutely.
I mean? Like, definitely want to see them and see how life is over there. Because, you know, like, I do see pictures and in the media and stuff like that. But it'd be actually nice to go and visit those countries and actually see it for myself. Like, oh, okay, like 85% of me is definitely from West Africa. Like, it would be cool to actually visit those countries.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You were saying you don't like the region? Like,
no. So, like, I guess with this test, 23&Me, that we used, my biggest criticism, I don't know if it's because of the populations that they've tested. Maybe not enough people have tested from these areas, you know. It doesn't pinpoint it. Like, for example, when my Spain came up, it might have been just because I have like a large percentage of Spanish blood in me, that it was able to pinpoint it to like the Canary Islands and Andalusia, you know, to specific regions in Spain. But with Africa, it didn't come up. I don't know if it's because I have a smaller percentage of African blood in me, you know, or specific regions in Africa, a smaller percentage, or if it's because not enough people who have this type of ancestry have tested, you know, to these particular regions. So it's not able to pinpoint it. I don't know. Or maybe it's so far removed that they can't trace it that far back.
Maybe.
You know?
It could be that too. And then also I feel like a lot of people that live in Africa probably don't take this because they're just like, that, you know, I know that live there. No, I'm saying.
Or are of the diaspora. Because just because you live in a specific area doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to carry all the genetic.
No, but I'm saying if you're from that area, like generations, like been living there, then it's going to test our DNA to compare it to there, and maybe they can pinpoint the area. You get what I'm saying? Because if you're doing the Caribbean, America, of course, like, we have DNA from Africa, but if you actually got real people from those different African countries, you can probably compare it and pinpoint it better.
Not enough testing has been done.
But that's what I'm saying. It has to. I feel like it should be people that live in Africa. You know what I mean? Not just in the diaspora, because we have a little bit of everything over there. I feel like it's good to get someone who's probably like 100% from those countries. That's if they do, because you know they probably have some mix up too in Europe, of course. But I'm just saying it'll be good to get someone over there that probably has more of that DNA of that country, because most people over here have a mixture of all of Africa, not just one specific country in Africa. That's what I was saying.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So they can pinpoint the DNA better. Yeah, because yours was cool that it actually showed where in Spain your family was from, because even when mine was from Portugal, like even my father told me he came from Portugal, but I don't think anyone knows where in Portugal, and this didn't tell me. Probably because it's so low, 4.2. It's probably like it's so low it can't detect, you know, like it can't pick it up.
Yeah.
So it would have been cool if I could actually figure out like where in Portugal he was from, even though it is small. It's like it still makes up a percentage of me. So it would have been cool to actually know where in Portugal he was from.
Right. So because yours was in the like 4% range, you know,
low.
So exactly, it's not gonna probably be able to pick it up, and that's probably also what happened with me with like the whole Ghana, Sierra Leone, Liberia regions, you know. So.
Oh, me too. Like that's my highest, and it doesn't tell me where they're from. And that's 41%. Like
so
it doesn't say where it's from.
Maybe not enough people from that population were tested.
That's what I'm saying.
But going back to what you said, you know, yours. 23&Me, when it comes to like the whole Iberian Peninsula, it kind of like groups it together as like one. It will say Spain and Portugal. So for me, it's gonna say that. But there's a specific, if you click on that specific tab and it goes deeper, it actually splits into like how much of Portugal and how much of Spain it detects.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
I'm probably gonna do that.
Probably yours doesn't show that, but for me, I guess. Since I have such a high percentage of blood from the Iberian Peninsula, it actually told me that nothing of Portugal was detected in mine, and it came up that Spain is likely. So that means that maybe there is no Portuguese, or if there was Portuguese within me, it's probably been, you know, through like the whole process of meiosis, some of that DNA probably got lost in the genetic record. But as far as it shows, I have no Portuguese in me. It's just straight up Spanish. So that was pretty interesting.
I feel like the only reason I know it's definitely Portuguese is from what I've been told. So that's because honestly, I just found that out recently. So if I did the DNA test without even knowing what my dad told me before I took it, I would have been surprised to see that. I would have been like, where did this come from?
Speaking of which, right, your father told you that his grandfather was Portuguese.
Half Portuguese.
Okay, so half Portuguese.
I think. No, actually full-blooded, yeah.
Full
the
Portuguese.
Grandfather full-blooded, and
Okay.
his father was half, yeah.
So I've always looked at pictures of both of my parents' parents, so all four of my grandparents. I've seen pictures of them. Clearly, my mother's father, you take a look at his picture, you know he's black, right? You clearly tell. Right, and you look at my mother's mother, you could tell she's like half black or something, you know. However, I didn't know. I had this conversation with my mom, and she was like, "Yeah, your grandfather's grandfather was actually African." And when I took a look at 23&Me, there's a thing where it shows when in your ancestral timeline the last full-blooded nationality came into your genetic record. And for me, it showed that 4 generations ago I had some Ghanaian, Sierra Leonean, or Liberian in my bloodline. So that shows that pretty recently I had a full-blooded person from West Africa, and that just solidifies what my mother told me, which was pretty cool actually.
Yeah, I like the timeline feature that they have where they show you how long ago or how close that person was, like 100% of that nationality or from that region, which I think is pretty cool. So you kind of like pinpoint where you kind of got that in your DNA. Like, oh, where did this come from? I'm telling you, I'm so surprised about this French and German. That was like 5 to 8 generations ago. But still, I'm like, I didn't see that coming at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Learn something new every day. And same thing with me. Like, where does the Italian and Ashkenazi Jewish come in for me, you know? And it's so far removed. It's probably like 7 generations ago.
So here I have the highest and lowest percentages of my DNA. I really like this feature, how you're able to get a historical and cultural background of the different regions that comprises your DNA.
Wow! It's thing I was disappointed, not disappointed, I guess I was kind of sad to see was that Montserrat didn't come up, because it said only St. John's, Antigua, which is my father's side. I didn't see anything of Montserrat. At the same time, it doesn't come up as a list of one of the islands because it's probably so small. Maybe a lot of people doesn't test from there. A lot of people who are from Antigua and from Montserrat know they're like sister islands, so a lot of people do go back and forth. So maybe someone from Antigua was, you know, came to Montserrat and stayed there, or maybe just not enough DNA in Montserrat. I'm not sure, but that's the only thing I saw that I was like, oh, it didn't come up. Don't be surprised if it does an update on you, because at first it had an update that said I was like 90 point something percent, and then it went to 91, and then it was like 8.4 to 8.5. So I guess what it wasn't sure about, it solidified later on after it updated, so it'll give you, I guess, a more accurate result of your DNA. But I feel like if we did another test like Ancestry or one of those other ones, I feel like the countries are going to be the same, but the percentages probably would just vary.
And I think that's all
because it all depends on how much people take it that they have in their data.
That and also they all use a different algorithm.
And that's so yeah. So I feel like the countries are pretty set, which I just kind of wanted to know the countries, honestly. So now I know the countries and the percentage. Well, this is 23's percentage, but at least I know the countries.
So we hope that you guys found this informative. If you've taken a test before, any type of DNA test, no matter what company, let us know what were your results like. What was your experience like? And that's it for this video. You know, with me I have
Shanique, and you can find me at Shayventure on Instagram and YouTube.
Okay. And my name is Jose, 100% Puerto Rican, you know. And I'm on Instagram as Jet Set Jose, and here on YouTube as Jet Set Jose as well. Alright, so till the next video, take care.